2003, close to 5 years after the new Batman Adventures aired its last episode and in the middle of the Justice League animated series run, Batman Mystery of the Batwoman was released on home video. We hadn't seen an animated DC movie since Batman Beyond Return of the Joker in 2000, so it seemed like an odd choice to go back to the TNBA character models to tell a story that looked inconsequential from the trailers and ad spots. The production team behind the DCAU had very seldom let us down before, so I remember thinking I'd have to check this movie out. It took a few years, but eventually I did see Mystery of the Batwoman. A reckless new vigilante has flown into the skies above Gotham. Calling herself Batwoman, this additional presence in the city seems to be targeting the operations of known criminals. After her actions put the public in danger, Batman and the GCPD begin to investigate who's under Batwoman's mask and what her true intentions are. Bruce begins to follow leads on Kathy Duquesne, daughter of gangster Carlton Duquesne, a skilled Wayne tech developer named Rocky Ballantyne, and Detective Harvey Bullock's new partner, Sonia Elkanah. Meanwhile, Rupert Thorne, Penguin, and Carlton Duquesne hire Bane to strike back against Batwoman for all the problems she's causing their villainous activity.
From a world where the lines between good and evil blur into gray, comes a new mystery.
With Batwoman, it was great to have basically a mystery.
Batman, Mystery of the Batwoman is shrouded in mystery.
A truly mysterious mystery, with mysteriously mysterious mysteries tucked inside one big mystery. I hope they paid Kevin Conroy well to narrate that featurette.
What is not a mystery, however...
Yeah, I get it. Alan Burnett took the lead on this one, with Michael Reeves writing the full script based on Burnett's story, and Kurt Gaeta is credited as the producer and director. Burnett has spoken quite a bit about this project over the years. In a 2012 interview with World's Finest, he spoke on how it came together. Quote, "I was asked to write 2 DVD scripts so they could choose one, and the deadline was within 2 months. I wrote one with Paul Dini, which was a Batman team-up video, in which you saw him on adventures with various other heroes. The other was this one, which I wrote with Michael Reeves. Home Video chose this one mainly because it was a single story as opposed to several stories linked together. The script with Dini, by the way, was mined by Michael Jelenic for a Batman the Brave and the Bold episode, so it didn't go completely to waste." End quote. In the surprisingly extensive extra features on the Blu-ray, Burnett and Reeves discussed how fast the story and script were completed.
This home video was a relatively quick production. It was written so quickly that I was writing the story and handing you pages of the story as you were writing the script.
Right.
And we weren't quite sure where it was going to end. We sort of had...
I had no idea.
That certainly makes some sense with how differently paced this movie was compared to the ones that came before it. What was more curious was the vastly lighter tone. This was a conscious effort on the part of Burnett to try something new. He told World's Finest, quote, "I wanted to do Batman light. I wanted to have some laughs. I think women are a threat to Bruce. I think he has put them off for so long, he doesn't really know what to do with them. I think he'd rather face the League of Assassins than have a date with a smart female. So I thought we could get some humor from that. Genuinely, that's all I wanted to do. Have some fun. I didn't want to change the world, I didn't want to break his back, I didn't want to see the pearls fall on the concrete again. I'd been down the angst road so many times with this character that it was time to take a breather from the melodrama. The Dini script was also kind of a romp, so that was the mood I was in. Maybe we all were." End quote. I totally understand wanting to try a new direction with a character and world that one's been involved with for years. Alan Burnett absolutely earned that right, but taking that approach with this Batman just seemed forced and unnatural. I don't think the basis of the story was bad, I just don't think it was told very well. It doesn't stand up to most other DCAU work. The story and tone aren't the only building blocks of this movie that came across as off. The look of the animation is quicker and much brighter than the new Batman Adventures. It was a bit closer to the Justice League show, but even when compared to that, everything looks too polished, too clean for a narrative taking place in Gotham. The backgrounds still look nice and the characters are mostly on model for the TNBA style, so there's nothing technically wrong with it. Lacking are the familiar dark shadows and contrast we were used to. DR Movie animated Mystery of the Batwoman, and it was the only solo Batman project they worked on for the DCAU. However, they did provide services for the Zeta Project and 20 episodes of Justice League Unlimited. This ended up being the only appearance of Rupert Thorne in the revamped design style. He doesn't look bad, a bit slimmer, and he plays with a deck of cards for some reason now. They at least brought back the original voice actor, John Vernon, something I can't say for Tim Drake, Bane, or the Penguin.
If we're unable to deliver the rest of our stockpile, we're dead. The Kasnians will come after us like wolverines.
Alan Burnett and Kurt Gaeta decided to recast the character. After 11 appearances, Paul Williams did not return to provide the vocals for Penguin's final DCAU appearance. Instead, they went with David Ogden Stiers because he was thought to be more intimidating sounding or something. Honestly, I don't really know why they did this. Apparently, neither did Bruce Timm, who had no involvement with this project. He told World's Finest in 2004 that he probably wouldn't have recast the character, but stood behind Burnett's right to do so. While Timm didn't have any direct involvement in the film, the production team was still playing in the universe he largely shaped. That brings us to the Barbara Gordon scene.
I just saw the news, and I was wondering if you'd gotten a new partner.
I have no idea who she is.
'Cause I thought you and I were, you know.
Barb, we're going through the East Tunnel now.
Look, I just don't like the Bruce and Barbara thing. It was bad enough finding out about their relationship in Batman Beyond, but to see part of it play out here feels unseemly. The fact that Tim and Alfred know about it and are teasing Bruce makes it even worse. Maybe it's supposed to be played off like Babs is very forward with her crush at this point, but it totally feels like they've already hooked up multiple times and she's looking forward to continuing the relationship. I guess it's a good thing Dick Grayson was absent from this movie.
As they say on the streets, I ain't touching that one.
This leads us to a bigger overall issue with Mystery of the Batwoman. They try to set up a theme of exploring Bruce's relationships with women, but instead of using characters we care about and know the background of, they introduce Kathy Duquesne and force an attraction. What about Catwoman, Talia, Andrea Beaumont? Hell, I'd even take something with Veronica Vreeland. Their friendship was well established, and I think Bruce toying with finally committing to a relationship with her could be interesting and still traverse the intended subject matter. Ask yourself, would this version of Bruce Wayne legitimately fall for a character who constantly says,
Toila, toila, toila?
Voila.
Ugh. They try to give Kathy, along with Sonia and Rocky, sympathetic backstories to generate development. Kathy's mom was shot and killed in an attempt on her gangster father's life. Having a parent who's been lost to gun violence is a solid way for Bruce to make a connection. But the scene where this is explained is written like Kathy is about to break out into a bad rendition of Part of Your World.
I used to wonder what it's like to come from a respectable family, where there's no violence, no vendettas, no victims. What must that feel like? It must feel like freedom.
Kathy, be careful.
You sound like my mama.
What happened?
What happened? She died. Isn't that what always happens?
There's no chemistry between these two. I'm sure the actors being in separate locations when they recorded took away from the type of stuff we saw in the animated series days, but they're just not written and played like they're genuinely into each other. I'm all for an introspective story about why Bruce's relationships never work out and what scares him about commitment, but you need a solid character and a natural motivation for him to truly relate to. I'm also still unsure why they introduced a completely new character in the role Renee Montoya had been in on the show for years. They even share a similar design. I think it would have given the whole Batwoman identity more credence and credibility if Montoya was the ringleader. Although Detective Sonia Alcana does have a decent backstory that she shares with Batman.
You saved my life once. 9 years ago. Arsonists. They burned my parents' shop. Flames shooting up between the floorboards, and then there you were.
I remember. The arsonists were working for Rupert Thorne.
That's why I decided to become a cop. I just thought you should know.
If she was more of the focus without Kathy and Rocky sucking up screen time, we would have seen additional, potentially interesting character development, but that would have ruined the whole mystery gimmick with multiple suspects. If Montoya was in this position, you could have sidestepped this problem entirely since we already knew her. After so many years as a smaller side character, this could have been her moment to shine. Oh well. Not helping matters here is the music. And let me just make sure I say, Lolita Ritmanis contributed great work to the DCAU over the years, but this did not fit the world we came to know over the previous decade plus. Some of that early 2000s synth just drives me up a wall. The original series went so far to make sure it sounded like a movie every week. It was a live orchestra, albeit not a full-size group, creating the auditory resplendence in each episode. The music is one of the very best things about those Batman shows. And I know Batman Beyond had a heavily futuristic synthetic sound to its music, yet it fit the vibe of that series and needed to be at least a little different to set it apart. I don't know why they went with sexy saxophone and computer horn themes here. It's possible the budget didn't allow for a live orchestral score, but even so, the atmosphere this music creates doesn't feel anything close to the DCAU Batman we all loved, or even appropriately stylized like a Bullet for Bullock. It's mostly just generic. And there are moments where the ambient sound and music are very poorly mixed. Sometimes there's no diegetic noise when there should be. They also saw fit to add a whole musical number from recording artist Cherie. Now, I know there are exceptions, like pop star Cassidy in the new Batman Adventures episode Torch Song, but most of the music in this world is usually of an older vintage. Just take some of the songs played in Sub-Zero. Discovering motives for Kathy against her father, Valentine against Penguin, and Elkanah against Rupert Thorne, it's revealed to Batman that all three women have been working together under the Batwoman persona. Kathy has been sent out to blow up a shipment of the criminal's weapons leaving on a luxury cruise liner, but Bane captures her and she's unmasked to his employers. Carlton's partners then turn on him, and before Penguin can force the names of the other Batwoman out of his enemy, the Caped Crusader arrives on the scene. He's able to save the younger Duquesne as she defiantly activates another bomb to take down the ship. Robin, Rocky, and Sonya team up to stop an escaping Penguin and Thorne while the Dark Knight battles Bane, the cruise liner falling apart underneath them. Eventually, the monstrous enforcer falls into the fiery depths below. Sonya saves Batman from a similar fate. Later, Elkanah is fired from the police force. However, she won't be charged by the DA. Batman gives her evidence of Rocky's boyfriend's innocence as he's been in jail, framed by the Penguin for smuggling. Valentine reunites with Kevin while Bruce and Kathy romantically drive off into the evening together. Originally, the ending saw Bruce once again separated from the object of his affection, Kathy in this case, and simply continue his life as Batman. But Alan Burnett went back on that finish.
It would be nice for him to finally get the girl, and so we redid the ending.
I mean, sure. That's not the biggest of this movie's issues anyway. The Kathy Duquesne name is very close to Batwoman's true identity in the comics, that being Kathy Kane. According to Alan Burnett in the extra features, DC Comics refused to let them use her.
In the comic books, the Batwoman was known as Kathy Kane. Because there's a villainous side to her, sort of, DC Comics wanted us not to use Kathy Kane. That's why we changed the name.
Batwoman's design is often compared to Batman's from Batman Beyond, but Kurt Gaeta has always shot that comparison down, saying the reason she looks that way is because they needed every inch of the character covered to preserve the movie's mystery. Her glider is a bit unique to Gotham, but plainly inspired by the Green Goblin's device over at Marvel. While this movie introduced several new characters, it was the last DCAU appearance for many of them, including their voice actors. Rupert Thorne, Penguin, Harvey Bullock, Bane, and Barbara Gordon. Even though the latter two showed up in Batman Beyond, this was their last appearance in production order. This also marked the final time Bob Hastings voiced Jim Gordon. It was among several releases in 2003 where he played the Commissioner. He would only have one more voice credit before his death in 2014. There's an animated Superman movie that came out in 2006 which used the character models and most actors from the Man of Steel's DCAU series, but is out of canon. In Superman Brainiac Attacks, several mainstays are provided with different voices, and while it's directed by Kurt Gaeta, it feels so far out of step with the visuals they're using. It's got this uncanny valley thing going on, like it's wearing the skin of something recognizable, but under the surface, you can tell that something is way off. That's kind of the feeling I get watching Mystery of the Batwoman. It doesn't go as far off the rails as Brainiac Attacks, but it features a design style from an older series, has most of the same actors, is produced by the DCAU team, and yet, something feels wrong. Regular personalities are out of character, things look slightly different, a few well-known voice actors were replaced. It's an odd experience to watch after viewing the quality work leading up to it. I'm sure there are plenty of people who really like this movie or think it was just okay or simply find it underwhelming because earlier DCAU movies were better. If that's your opinion, cool. If I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Don't let someone else's opinion ruin your own. I'm just stating mine, and I do not like Mystery of the Batwoman. Even if this accomplished, talented team decided to fully dedicate themselves to making Batman light, as Burnett put it, I think there were more interesting, entertaining, and clever ways to do it. I'm not sure what the exact reasons are for not including Mystery of the Batwoman on the 2018 animated series Blu-ray release. Phantasm and Sub-Zero are there. I get why they don't include Return of the Joker, but the Batwoman movie feels like it should be alongside the others. Was it a quality control thing? Did one of the producers veto its inclusion? It got its own Blu-ray release in 2013, so there's no excuse in that sense. Despite its flaws, as far as I can tell, it is in canon with the DCAU, and after all, is a third animated Batman movie directly spun off of the main series. I'm curious who made the call and why. The silent short film Chase Me is one of the extra features on Batwoman's HD release. It follows a quick story of Bruce feeling out of place at an upper-crust party where he finds Catwoman stealing from a safe. As Batman, he tracks her down to the Gotham Zoo, where he tricks her for a change and backcuffs her to the gate. The police pick up Catwoman as Bruce returns to the party, successful but still feeling empty. This is fine. It's got some of the same problems as the main movie, but they tried a new idea. I think they could have attempted a story that was a little more daring within the same parameters, but for what it is, it's okay. So, there's your Chase Me review. For our last Batmay video this month, we'll be covering something a bit unique. It's not exactly a movie, but it was released as one. Sort of. You'll see.
Shrouded in mystery.
It sure is.
Twala.